They told the people of Millbrook it was a family curse. But curses don't leave fingerprints, and they don't follow a timetable. 5 women, each young, intelligent, radiant, stepped through the carved oak doors of the Hartwell mansion between 1829 and 1854. 5 women, each dissolved into madness within months. The pattern was perfect. Too perfect that it began with glances into mirrors that lasted a little too long, a faint whisper, like silk tearing, when no one else was in the room. Then came the conversations, quiet at first, then fevered, desperate, as if speaking to something inside the glass. By the time anyone understood what was happening, their minds were gone. Every symptom began in the same room, the master bedroom suite, a chamber drenched in light from tall eastern windows, its walls lined with ornate French mirrors that seemed to watch as much as they reflected. In 1835, when the truth surfaced, it wasn't a ghost story. It wasn't superstition. It was a system. A method, and once you see how it worked, you will understand why the Hartwell family buried the real story, and why it still matters now. Millbrook in the 1830s was the kind of place where everyone knew the sound of their neighbors' carriage wheels, but no one knew what Jeremiah Hartwell was really building. He had come from nothing, the son of a blacksmith, yet in less than a decade he'd risen to one of the most powerful industrialists west of the Alleghenies. His ironworks fed the newborn railroads, his name opened doors in Harrisburg and Philadelphia, and his mansion on Beacon Hill looked down on the town like a watchman. From the outside, it was a symbol of success. Inside, it was a machine. The east wing, where the master bedroom lay, was unlike the rest of the house. The mirrors weren't decoration, they were arrangement. Every reflective surface positioned not for beauty, but for convergence, like they were channeling attention, or something else, toward whoever slept there. No one spoke about the workmen who'd been dismissed halfway through construction, or the deliveries that came at night, crates carried directly to the east wing, marked only with numbers and symbols no one could read. Hartwell told the town it was French luxury. But in private, he called it the chamber. And the chamber was never built for comfort. The first wife, Margaret Dunlap, never suspected. On her wedding night in October 1829, she stepped into the master suite and gasped at the beauty, hand-painted wallpaper from Paris, a 4-poster bed carved from cherry wood, a wall of mirrors that caught the firelight and multiplied it until the whole room seemed to glow. It felt like a fairy tale. But fairy tales have rules. And Margaret didn't know she had already broken the first one. You do not look too long into the glass. By spring, her sister noticed the changes, Margaret staring at nothing, breaking conversations mid-sentence to glance toward an empty doorway, speaking about the house as if it were alive. Old houses have their own language, she said, smiling like she'd been told a secret. By summer, the watching habit had begun. She'd stand at the window for hours, not looking out, but at her reflection in the glass, tilting her head, studying herself as though she were someone else entirely. And then, the night of the dinner party, when she began arguing with her reflection in front of dozens of guests, pausing as though it spoke back, the mirrors were speaking to her, and she was listening. What happened next was never meant to leave the Hartwell house. In August 1830, the staff found Margaret in the master bedroom at 3 in the morning, completely naked, stripping the French wallpaper from the walls, smiling softly. "I need to see what's underneath," she said. Beneath was only plaster and wooden laths. But Margaret nodded as if she'd uncovered a buried truth. Within weeks, she refused to leave the mirrors. Every one of them, she claimed, held other Margarets, reflections that told her things no one else could know. She said they knew the history of the house, the things behind the walls, the things that had been done here long before she arrived. When her family covered the mirrors, she tore the cloths down until her fingernails bled. The final night, she gathered every mirror and reflective surface in the mansion into the master suite, arranging them in a precise, complex pattern. She spent the entire night in what she called conference with her other selves. By dawn, she no longer recognized her husband or family. She was committed to the Pennsylvania Hospital for the Insane, where she would spend 43 years staring into whatever reflections she could find, still searching for answers. First, Elena thrived in the Hartwell mansion. Unlike Margaret, she was bold, a natural hostess who filled the East Wing with laughter, music, and candlelight. She adored the master suite, especially the grand vanity where she brushed her hair each night, the mirror catching the flicker of firelight like molten gold, but in February 1835, Maria Santos, her personal maid and loyal companion since childhood, began noticing changes. Elena lingered at her vanity longer than necessary, brushing her hair without looking at herself. Instead, her gaze fixed just to the left of her reflection, as if something unseen were standing there. "She's trying to tell me something important," Elena whispered one morning. "I must listen carefully." By March, the mirror conversations began. They were calm, almost businesslike. Elena claimed her reflection was advising her, offering household tips, correcting staff schedules, and sharing facts about the mansion's previous occupants. "She is very knowledgeable," Elena told Maria, smiling. "And she knows secrets about this house you could never imagine." Dr. Henley, summoned discreetly, noted the troubling parallels to Margaret's illness, yet this time, Hartwell did not panic. That he observed, that he documented, and he waited, as if this was the outcome he had been hoping for all along. April 1835. Elena stopped calling it her reflection. She now referred to the figure in the glass as the mirror woman. According to Maria Santos's hidden diary, found decades later in the attic, Elena believed the mirror woman was not merely a spirit, but a prisoner. A consciousness trapped within the reflective surfaces of the mansion, unable to escape, and she had a name, Margaret Hartwell. "She warns me," Elena whispered to Maria one night, her voice trembling yet eager. "She says the walls have a second skin. That behind them are passages, rooms no one has seen in years. And that he watches from them." Maria didn't dare ask who he was. Dr. Henley, in a letter to a colleague in Philadelphia, admitted that Elena's mental clarity was unnerving. She showed no physical decline, no disorientation, only an unshakable fixation on the mirrors. "This is not the madness of disorder," he wrote. "It is the madness of purpose." Hartwell's reaction was chilling. Instead of removing her from the suite, he began adjusting the mirrors subtly, tilting angles, altering positions. It was as if he wanted her connection to the mirror woman to deepen, and it did. By May, the conversations had turned into commands. The mirror woman told Elena to move certain objects in the room, a chair a few inches to the left, a candlestick aligned with the corner of a rug. Harmless enough, at first, then came stranger tasks. One night, Maria awoke to the sound of footsteps above her quarters. She climbed the service stairs and found Elena in the master suite, every mirror draped in black cloth, except one. A tall, narrow glass at the far wall reflected not just Elena's image, but a faint shadow moving behind her. "She says we must prepare the room," Elena explained, voice low but steady. "He comes to the mirrors, but only when they are ready. Only when the pattern is right." Maria swore she felt the air shift, as though something immense had entered the room without opening a door. Hartwell knew that he was watching from the corner, silent, his expression unreadable. He made no move to stop Elena, no sign of alarm. If anything, there was satisfaction in his eyes, because this, the arrangement, the obedience, the preparation, was the stage he had been engineering from the very beginning. The change came on a storm-heavy night in June. Lightning flared across the valley, spilling light into the master suite. In one flash, Elena saw it, not her own reflection, but a narrow, dim corridor stretching away behind the glass, lined with wooden beams and lit by a single flickering lantern. "The wall has another side," she whispered. The next morning, she pressed her palms against the mirror, as though testing for a seam. The glass was cold, unyielding. But the mirror woman told her precisely where to look. That evening, Elena moved the tall wardrobe away from the eastern wall. Behind it was a section of wainscoting subtly different from the rest, its wood darker, grain misaligned. She tapped it. Hollow. Maria begged her to stop, but Hartwell was already there, keys in hand. Without a word, he unlocked a concealed panel, revealing a narrow crawlspace thick with dust. A ladder descended into blackness. "You see," he said softly, "she teaches the worthy." Maria realized then, Hartwell wanted his wives to reach this point. To find this place. To step willingly into it, and Elena, trembling but resolute, took the first step down into the dark. The air inside the passage was damp, metallic, each rung of the ladder creaked under Elena's weight, the sound swallowed almost instantly by the black below. Maria followed, clutching a single candle, its flame bending as if in a draught. The ladder ended in a stone corridor no more than 3 feet wide. The walls were slick, veined with something dark that glistened in the candlelight. The air smelled of rust, and something sweeter, rotting. At the far end stood another door, not wood, but iron, its surface etched with patterns that seemed too deliberate to be random. Circles intersecting, lines spiraling inward, a language of symbols neither woman recognized. Hartwell arrived last, stepping down with unnatural ease. He produced a ring of keys, though the door required none. It swung open at his touch. Inside was a chamber lined entirely in mirrors, floor to ceiling. No dust. No cobwebs. As if this place was used, but the reflections weren't right. They didn't move in perfect unison. Some were slightly delayed, others frozen, staring out with expressions the real faces didn't wear. The mirror woman was here. In every surface, and she was smiling. The smile in the mirrors widened, though Elena's own lips did not move. Her reflection stepped closer, pressing its palm against the glass. Yet Elena felt the warmth of flesh on her own hand, as if the barrier wasn't there at all. Maria's candle sputtered. The chamber seemed to breathe. Hartwell spoke for the first time since they'd entered. "This is where they go," he said, voice low but heavy with pride. "Those the world forgets. Those willing to cross over." In the shifting reflections, Maria saw them, faces she'd never met, women dressed in gowns decades out of fashion, men in workers' clothes with hollow eyes. They stood silently, each inside their own mirrored cell, as if trapped between the glass and another reality. Elena's reflection began to talk. No sound came from its mouth, but the words bloomed directly in her mind. "Take my hand, and you will see what he hides from the rest." Hartwell didn't stop her. In fact, he stepped aside, giving her space. Elena reached out, her fingertips sank into the glass as though it were water. The moment her hand vanished beyond the surface, every mirror in the room went black. Cold swallowed her. Not the kind that chills the skin, but the kind that seeps into the bones, hollowing them from the inside. When Elena's vision cleared, she was standing in a place that looked almost like the chamber she'd left behind. The same walls, the same mirrors, but darker, their silver dulled, their edges warped, and Hartwell was gone. Instead, the room was filled with the others, dozens of them, maybe more, their faces pale and eyes wide, standing silently in rows. Their mouths moved in unison, whispering something just below the threshold of hearing. The air was thick, as if every breath was borrowed. Elena turned, and there she was, the mirror woman. No longer a reflection, but a living presence, her gown trailing across the floor, her hair moving as though stirred by unseen water. She smiled, and the whispering stopped. "You've been brought here because you listen," she said. Her voice was both in Elena's ears and inside her mind. "But understand, Hartwell serves me, not the other way around." Behind her, one of the mirrors rippled. Shapes began to push against it from the other side. The shapes in the mirror began to form faces, women's faces. Elena's breath caught. She recognized some from the portraits hidden in Hartwell's library. Others from faded newspaper clippings about tragic illnesses and mysterious disappearances. These were his wives, not buried. Not gone, kept. The mirror woman moved closer, her presence both magnetic and suffocating. "He promised them eternity," she said, almost tenderly. "And in return, they gave me their reflection. Their essence. Such beauty should not fade with flesh." One of the wives pressed her hands against the glass. Her eyes met Elena's, pleading, desperate. Her mouth formed silent words. "Help me." Elena stepped forward instinctively, but the mirror woman's hand shot out, stopping her. "They cannot leave," she said. "Not unless another takes their place. This is the balance. One steps in, one steps out." A sharp pain flared in Elena's chest as the truth settled. Hartwell hadn't been preserving beauty, he'd been feeding it to something ancient, something that lived between the worlds, and now, the way the wives stared at her, they weren't just begging for help, they were measuring her. The wives began to move in eerie synchronization, their hands gliding over the glass, their lips shaping the same word again and again. Stay. The mirror woman's smile deepened. You have something they all want, Elena. A life. A body still warm. A name that will be remembered outside these walls. The air thickened until it felt like trying to breathe through water. Elena's pulse roared in her ears. From the corner of her eye, she saw Hartwell step through the darkness, calm as ever. It's a simple exchange, he said. Give yourself, and she'll release one. You decide who. Elena's mind spun, Maria's face flashed in her thoughts. If she sacrificed herself, Maria would escape. If she refused, they might both stay. The wives pressed closer to the glass, their eyes glowing faintly, hungry and shimmering. Choose, the mirror woman whispered. Or I'll choose for you. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was no door, no exit, only reflections, and in one of them, Elena saw herself already inside, her eyes vacant, her lips mouthing stayed out. Elena's throat tightened until it felt like her own voice was being strangled. She looked from Hartwell to the mirror woman to the faces pressing against the glass. Maria's wide, tearful eyes burned in her memory. The wives began to chant softly now, the word stay weaving like a thread through her skull. Every syllable dulled her will. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms until she felt blood. The pain was the only thing keeping her anchored. I'll do it, she said finally. Her voice was barely more than a breath, but the mirrors seemed to hear it. The glass shimmered, the faces drawing back as if in anticipation. Hartwell's expression didn't change, no triumph, no glee, just inevitability. The mirror woman extended her hand. Then step forward. Elena took one step, then another. The surface rippled under her. Cool and smooth, like pressing against the skin of a lake at night. She turned her head one last time, and saw Maria's reflection in the far mirror, eyes wide, lips mouthing no, but by then, the glass had already begun to swallow her. Cold surged through Elena's body as the mirror pulled her in. For a heartbeat, there was no up, no down, just endless dark water and distant whispers curling around her like smoke. Faces swam past her, pale and weightless, mouths opening in silent screams. She felt herself being threaded into their ranks, her edges dissolving. Across the glass, she saw Maria stumble free into the corridor. Hartwell let her go without a word, as if the bargain was law. Older than himself, Elena tried to call out, but no sound escaped. Her breath fogged the inside of the mirror like a winter pain. The wives moved aside to make space. Their eyes were calm now, as if the hunger in them had been briefly sated. The mirror woman drifted closer, brushing a cold hand along Elena's cheek. It's not so bad here. You'll see beauty in ways the living never can. In the corridor, Maria looked back, and froze. The glass no longer showed Elena. It showed her own reflection, standing behind her. The mirror woman's voice slid through the dark. Balance is delicate, and the debt is never truly paid.